There are things you're not supposed to know. Secrets whispered through the sandstone corridors of tombs where no one dares breathe too loud. Secrets that sleep beneath layers of gold, calcified incense, and the weight of centuries. Tonight, we're peeling back the linen wrappings on one of them. The Pharaoh. Not the myth, the man. Before you get too comfortable, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment below. Tell me what time it is where you are, and if the gods have been kind to your crops. Now, dim the lights, light a candle if you want to feel fancy, and let's step into a morning that smells like resin, wet reed mats, and the quiet terror of eternity. You wake to the sound of drums. Not music, schedule. They beat like a second heartbeat. Slow, exact, unforgiving. It's not even sunrise, but you're already behind. You are Pharaoh, the Nesubit, the son of Ra, the divine intermediary between earth and the heavens, and yet your schedule is tighter than a slave ship manifest. Your bed is not a mattress. It's a gilded slab of cedar wood, imported at great expense from Lebanon, carved with lion heads and papyrus stalks. Comfort is for mortals. You sleep like a god, rigid, horizontal, and extremely aware of your spine. Around you, the room stirs with activity. Servants move silently, shadows slipping through incense fog. One unfurls your day's clothing, linen so finely woven it's transparent. Another brings in fresh water from a sacred pool. Not too hot, not too cold. The temperature has to be perfect, or it might offend the gods. Or your skin. You do not dress yourself. That would be sacrilege. You are an instrument of the divine. To touch your own garments is to profane the will of the gods. Your body is anointed with perfumed oils, myrrh, frankincense, and blue lotus. It sounds luxurious until you realize the real reason: the palace stinks. No sewage system, no fans, just heat, humanity, and a lot of things that used to be alive. The oils keep you from smelling like death warmed over, which, ironically, you're preparing to become. Even your breath is curated. A servant offers you a small ball of natron and mint. You chew, then spit into a golden bowl. The bowl will be scrubbed by someone who isn't allowed to look you in the eye. That's power. That's also deeply awkward. Now comes the first great task of the day, the daily offering ritual. You think being Pharaoh means lounging on cushions and throwing parties with figs and girls in eyeliner? No! You're working by dawn, and your first job is religious performance. You enter the House of Life, the temple complex attached to the palace, flanked by priests who've already shaved their heads, bathed in sacred water, and fasted since the last shadow of night. You haven't eaten either, but you're not fasting. You are fasted, as in, your food is waiting, but the gods come first. You walk barefoot across cold stone. Statues of deities watch you: Isis, Horus, Thoth, Anubis, all frozen in expressions that look a little too knowing. The priests chant hymns older than your grandfather. Incense curls upward in slow, spiraling prayers. And there it is, the sanctuary, the inner chamber, a place no one enters except the high priest and you, because you're not just the king. You are Horus made flesh, the living god, the cosmic glue that holds the Nile together. You stand before the idol. It's small, actually, black stone, smoothed by centuries, barely 3 feet tall. But its eyes? They're inlaid with gold and lapis lazuli. They look at you like they know something about your death. You bow. You clap your hands once. A signal. The priest begins the purification. Water, fire, smoke. You recite words you barely understand but dare not forget. Then, with hands steadier than you feel, you present the offerings. Bread, beer, meat, fruit, milk. No gods will eat this. They will inhale the essence. The rest goes to the priests. A divine tax system. You finish the ritual. You are purified, empowered, exhausted. And it's barely past sunrise. Now it's time to hold court. You return to the palace, where the vizier is already waiting, arms full of scrolls, eyes full of apologies. The scribes have been working since before Ra's first rays hit the river. They've been cataloging tribute from Lower Nubia, complaints from Memphis, and a rather concerning report about a collapsed granary near Thebes. One worker dead, possibly two. Crops ruined, infrastructure failing. You can't ignore it. You're not just a king. You are Mot, the living embodiment of cosmic order. If something rots in the kingdom, it rots in you. You listen as one official begs for permission to execute a priest for hoarding grain. Another wants your blessing to raise taxes along the delta. A third complains that his son refuses to become a scribe and wants to be a sculptor instead. You can't laugh. You must not sigh. You are divine equilibrium. You nod once, and the entire room breathes again. A servant offers you a bowl of figs. You eat one. Slowly. It's your first food today, and it tastes like dust and duty. You finish court. 1 hour later, or maybe 5. Time in the palace moves like the Nile, slow, winding, and dangerous when ignored. But now comes the hardest part of the day, family. Because while you are Pharaoh, you are also husband, brother, uncle, sometimes father, often cousin, depending on who married whom last dynasty, and that means politics, wrapped in bloodlines, perfumed in loyalty, and poisoned with inheritance. Your wife greets you in the garden. She smiles. She's wearing the ceremonial crown of Hathor. That means she wants something. Probably another statue, probably in her image, probably 20 cubits tall.
The queen's smile is a dagger in velvet. Not because she doesn't love you, of course she does. She has to. That's what the gods demand. But love in the royal court is less about affection and more about alliances. She's not just your wife, she's also your cousin, the daughter of your father's sister's second wife, married to you not for romance but for blood purity and political continuity. And today, she wants something marble. She's gracious about it, of course, offers you lotus tea, sits beside you on a golden-laid bench shaped like a vulture's wing, asks if you slept well. You didn't. No one does. But you say yes. Because you are the Jed pillar, the unshakable backbone of Egypt. And admitting exhaustion is for peasants and priests with ulcers. She touches your hand, delicately, mentions the architect from Karnak who just finished a statue of the god Ptah that made all the nobles weep. She says this without saying it. Why does a god get a statue before I do? You nod. You say you'll commission one. She beams. She wins. You get up, and your knees crack like temple doors. A servant announces your next appointment. It's time to inspect the troops. You leave the garden and descend into the courtyard where the air shifts. No more perfumed breezes, no more grape-stuffed diplomacy, just grit, leather, and bronze. The royal guard stands at attention. Rows of men in kilts and leather corselets, some barefoot, some in sandals held together by hope and papyrus twine. Spears upright, eyes forward, sweat glinting like ritual oil. You're not here to fight. You're here to be seen. You are Pharaoh. Your presence makes crops grow. Your approval is currency. Your frown can send a man to die at the edge of Nubia. So you walk slowly, hands behind your back, nodding occasionally, pretending not to hear your own joints complain. A captain reports theft from the granary again. He suspects one of the new recruits. You nod and wave your hand. He will handle it. By handle, you mean interrogate until someone breaks and confesses to stealing a handful of emmer wheat. Because food is power, and no one steals power from Pharaoh. But there's no time to linger. Now comes the truly sacred part of your day, the Nile offering. You change, again, this time into the ceremonial leopard skin robe of high ritual, worn over more linen, which itches and smells faintly of last week's offering. Priests gather. Drums resume. You're led to the edge of the Nile, where the water laps lazily at the stone quay, unaware it's about to become a holy witness. An ox is waiting. It's huge, beautiful, black with a white blaze on its forehead, the sacred markings of Apis, chosen for sacrifice. A priest inspects its hooves, tongue, and entrails, yes, entrails, while it's still alive. The signs are favorable. The gods are watching. You raise the ceremonial blade. You do not wield it. You're Pharaoh. You gesture toward it. A priest completes the act. The blood spills onto the riverbank, into the water, seeping into the current like an offering with no receipt. The sun is high, the air buzzes. Flies swarm the altar. The gods are appeased, for now. You breathe deeply and try not to retch. The scent is copper and heat. But you must look serene. The kingdom watches, the Nile listens, and the gods are always grading your performance. Afterward, you purify. Again. Lotus oil, milk baths, cedar incense. You've bled nothing, but you smell like a battlefield. A small boy offers you a wet cloth for your face. He's no more than 9, shaved bald except for one ceremonial braid. You don't know his name. You're not supposed to. He's one of hundreds, child attendants raised in the palace, trained for silence, obedience, and eventually, useful death. You nod to him. That's more kindness than most will ever get. Now comes the Council of Advisors, the true fire pit of the Pharaoh's routine. You sit on the throne, not the golden one with the lion paws and mother-of-pearl inlay, that's for state ceremonies. This is the functional throne, which is still encrusted with turquoise and curses, but slightly more practical. Surrounding you, the vizier sweating through 4 layers of linen, the high priest of Amun, who always smells like cinnamon and judgment, the treasurer, whose fingers twitch near his scrolls like they contain the secrets to immortality, and General Noct, who once killed a Hittite with a throw so perfect that scribes wrote poetry about it. They argue before you speak. That's the rule. They fight for your favor, for each other's downfall, and for a seat slightly closer to the shade. Topics include a rebellion simmering in the south. Nothing major. Just a few hundred angry farmers tired of taxes and probably not in awe of your divine presence. Yet, a missing shipment of turquoise from Sinai. Probably stolen, possibly cursed. The royal tomb architects demanding more workers. Something about collapsing ceilings and insufficient slaves. You nod. You say nothing. That's worse than yelling. Eventually, you raise one finger. Everyone stops. Even the flies. You decree that the taxes in the south will be delayed, temporarily, that the tomb workers will get 20 more laborers from the prison stock, and that the vizier will personally investigate the missing turquoise. None of this will fix the problems, but it will buy you another week of silence. You adjourn the council. Everyone bows, some too low, some not low enough. You step away, quietly. The sandals on your feet are lined with soft goat leather. No one hears you leave, but you still feel like you're being watched. Because you are. Not by men, not even by gods, but by something else. Something older than Ra. It waits for you in the tombs. It waits in your dreams. You are Pharaoh, and every breath you take is borrowed from eternity. But for now, you still have lunch to get through.
You don't sit to eat. You recline. At least, that's the theory. In practice, your left leg's asleep, your elbows cramping, and the lion-headed pillow under your ribs feels like a failed architectural experiment. You shift slightly. A servant notices and adjusts your angle with the precision of a man who knows that bruising your shoulder is punishable by death. Welcome to lunch with the gods, a meal, a ritual, and a carefully orchestrated test of self-control wrapped in lotus leaves. The table, actually a gilded tray the size of a chariot wheel, is placed in front of you. It holds offerings fit for a divine stomach. Barley bread shaped like cobras, grilled duck with pomegranate glaze, melons sliced into hieroglyphs, and a soft cheese that somehow smells like it predates the pyramids. You're not expected to eat all of it, only to appear nourished by it. Every bite you take must be graceful, every swallow measured, and absolutely no choking, not just because it's embarrassing, but because the last pharaoh who choked at a royal banquet was declared cursed by Sekhmet and died 2 weeks later of fever and divine judgment. Spoiler, it was poison. You sip from a cup of beer, thick, murky, and gritty with crushed date sediment. Not your favorite, but water is for the laborers and priests. You drink beer because it's sacred. You drink it because your ancestors drank it. You drink it because everyone is watching. Across the room sits your sister. She's wearing more gold than most temples. Her eyeliner could smite a crocodile, and her smile is half invitation, half indictment. She's technically your half-sister. You're technically considering marrying her. That's not scandalous. That's dynastic strategy. The gods married their siblings, so should you. But you hesitate, because while she might make a strong queen, she also makes a stronger enemy. And you're not entirely sure her affection isn't laced with ambition. Her latest gift, a perfume bottle shaped like a scarab, may or may not have a hex engraved beneath the stopper. Still, she toasts you. You toast her back. And the court scribes, watching from behind latticework, jot down everything. Every glance, every blink, every sip, because nothing is private when you are Pharaoh. Once lunch ends, or rather, once the food is respectfully removed and distributed among your servants and high priests, you're escorted to the solar chamber for quiet contemplation, which sounds serene, until you realize what it really means. You're alone with your thoughts. That's the most dangerous part of your day. The room is circular, open to the sky, its walls painted with gold and lapis suns. Incense curls upward, drawing lazy halos through shafts of light. You lie on a mat of woven reeds. You close your eyes. You try to breathe, but your mind is full of names, full of debts, full of enemies. There's the nobleman from a seat who bowed too slowly. The high priest of Pa who's been buying land under fake names. The Nubian ambassador who gave you a leopard pelt that looked suspiciously like the one stolen from your grandfather's tomb. And worst of all, the dreams. You've been having them for weeks. A black river with no end. A voice whispering in a language older than the gods. A mirror that shows your face, and then someone else's. You mentioned it once to your dream interpreter. He looked pale and started fasting on the spot. You haven't brought it up again, because pharaohs don't have nightmares. They have omens. The silence is broken by your personal physician, a man who somehow always smells like papyrus and anxiety. He bows low and offers a remedy for your fatigue, a mixture of honey, garlic, and something that used to buzz. You drink it. It burns. You smile politely. He doesn't meet your eyes as he backs away. He thinks you're dying. They all do. But you're not dying. You're just carrying the weight of 42 gods, 4,000 years of tradition, and 2 million subjects who all think the sun rises because you tell it to. No pressure. By now, the afternoon sun has begun to angle low across the horizon. The scribes return. Not the ones with scrolls, the ones with legacy.
These are the archivists, the genealogists, the keepers of royal memory. They're here to dictate your daily accomplishments so they can be carved into temple walls. But there's a catch. What you did isn't as important as how it will be remembered. If you sneezed and the grain market collapsed in Thebes, it will be recorded as a sign of divine disapproval. If you tripped on a garden step and bloodied your knee, it never happened. Or better, a servant offended Mot and was struck down by the gods. You correct them when they say you spoke with measured rage to a tax official. You actually screamed at him. But screaming doesn't sound divine, so it becomes measured rage. History will believe you were calm, wise, and always slightly backlit. You dismiss the scribes. They back out slowly, scrolls clutched like holy scripture. Now it's time to walk the gardens. Not to enjoy them. You haven't smelled a real flower in days. This is another performance. You walk among pools of still water, lotus blossoms floating like forgotten prayers. Papyrus rustles, egrets stalk fish in shallow corners. The garden is designed to mirror the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, perfect symmetry, divine order. You stop to speak to a gardener. He drops to his knees. He says nothing. He is not allowed to speak unless spoken to. You ask how the sycamores are doing. He says, "They bloom in your honor, divine one." You nod. But you know they bloom because the Nile flooded at the right time this year, and because 73 slaves hauled fertilizer uphill for 3 weeks straight. Still, it's a nice thought. You return indoors. It's almost evening. But there's one final responsibility before the sun sets: the daily inspection of the tomb. Yes, your tomb, while you're still alive. Because pharaohs plan their deaths like other men plan weddings.
It is sunset. The priests have lit torches along the colonnades, and the stone walls glow like the skin of some ancient beast just beneath the horizon. The palace quiets. The air thickens. The Nile hums with mosquitoes and metaphors. It is time to visit the tomb. Not someone else's, yours. You're led, without ceremony, but with grave intent, down a corridor of painted gods and forgotten prayers. The guards don't speak. They don't even breathe too loudly. This is not a public ritual. This is logistics for your eternity. The architect awaits you near the entrance. His skin is leathered, his beard trimmed with chalk dust, and he always smells like limestone and nightmares. He bows, unrolls a scroll, and begins updating you on the tomb's progress. Chamber 1, painted. Chamber 2, half carved. Chamber 3, flooded again, thanks to a new spring the gods clearly didn't mention. You nod. You pretend not to feel the chill in your ribs when he says flooded. Water in a tomb means mold. Mold means rot. Rot means eternal decomposition. Unacceptable. You descend into the construction site. It's quiet. Not peaceful, just expectant. The air is stale, like it's already mourning you. Servants rush ahead with torches. You follow slowly, flanked by priests who chant protective spells, not for the dead, but for you, the still living man foolish enough to walk through his own afterlife blueprint. You step into Chamber 2. It's massive, echoing, the ceiling painted with constellations no one's seen in years. Your face is already carved in the wall, stoic, triumphant, unmistakably bored. You hate it. Make me more radiant, you say. The sculptor bows so deeply his forehead smacks the floor. You walk farther in. The sarcophagus room is still unfinished. Right now, it's just a rectangular pit surrounded by dust and guesses. But eventually, this is where your body will rest, wrapped, boxed, boxed again and buried with everything you might need. Statues, amulets, weapons, hundreds of painted servants called ushapti, who will work for you in the afterlife whether they like it or not. Somewhere nearby, a scribe whispers to another, "They're behind schedule." You hear it. You say nothing. But later, that scribe will be transferred to the crocodile counting department, at night, without a lantern. You head back to the surface. As you emerge into the cooling dusk, the first stars blink into view like gods, deciding whether to keep watching. You exhale. You're still alive. For now. But your day isn't over. Now comes the festival rehearsal. Because soon it will be Opet, the great feast of renewal, where you must walk publicly from the Temple of Karnak to the Temple of Luxor, flanked by priests, musicians, dancers, soldiers, and half the population of Thebes. And guess what? You have to look thrilled the entire time. Even though your sandals will blister, your crown weighs 5 pounds, and the leopard skin robe you'll wear chafes in places no robe should. Tonight's rehearsal is just the priesthood's way of making sure you remember the choreography. Because yes, there is choreography. There's a moment in the procession where you must, number 1, raise your hand to Ra. Number 2, kneel. Number 3, accept an ankh from the high priest of Amun. Number 4, step back on your left foot. And number 5, declare Ma'at endures through me without sweating. You've done it 100 times. You'll do it 100 more. Because tradition must be performed perfectly, or the crops fail, the river dries, and everyone blames you. And they always do. You return to the palace. The moon now rides high above the horizon like a silvery eye that blinks too slowly. Finally, it's time for your private hour. Not free time, just private. You retreat to your sanctuary, a chamber lined with scrolls, stars, and too many expectations. There are statues here, some of gods, some of ancestors, and one of your grandfather, who died during a hippo hunt but insisted on being remembered as a military genius. You sit on a stone bench. You stare at the flame of a small oil lamp. You let your breath settle. You try to remember when you last laughed. You can't. But you do remember your first coronation dream. You were 12. Wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. The entire court bowed, except your mother, who only blinked and said, "Don't let them bury you before you're dead." You haven't forgotten that. You light incense for her now, frankincense and sandalwood. The room fills with smoke, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel like someone else, someone lighter, smaller, mortal. A servant knocks gently. It's time for the nightly divination. You sigh. Of course it is. A priest enters with a bowl of water, a reed pen, and a strip of linen. He asks you to write a question to the gods. You always do. And the answer is always the same. You already know. You hand the linen back. He leaves. You do know. That's the worst part.
The palace has grown quiet, not peaceful, just muffled, like the world has been wrapped in linen and stored in a canopic jar. It's nighttime in Thebes. The city pulses gently in the distance, fires flickering across rooftops, voices rising from taverns, prayers floating from temples where priests still murmur to gods who may or may not be listening. But here, in the palace, everything is measured, because the Pharaoh is preparing for sleep. Not rest, sleep. The rehearsal for death. Your bedroom, if you can call it that, is more temple than shelter. Columns surround the bed. The ceiling is painted with stars, each one corresponding to a specific deity who will greet you in the next world. A mural on the far wall shows you sailing across the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, in a golden solar bark. You are flanked by gods. Horus at the prow, Thoth at the stern, Anubis in the shadows. You've seen it 1,000 times, and every night you wonder, when will the mural become a mirror? You lie down, not on soft linens, those are for Nubian merchants and spoiled scribes. Your bed is cedar, flat, carved, sacred. The mattress is straw wrapped in linen, stuffed with the scent of unspoken things. No pillows. You sleep like Osiris, straight, still, arms crossed. Even now your posture is ceremonial. A servant lights a censer of blue lotus. The smoke coils. Another brings a vessel of milk and honey. You sip it. It tastes like ancient promises and obligations too old to question. Then comes the final ritual of your day, the naming. A priest steps in. His voice is low, almost embarrassed by its own importance. He recites your 5 names. Every pharaoh has them. Each one crafted for a different realm. 1. The Horus name, your power on earth. 2. The Nebti name, your dominion over Upper and Lower Egypt. 3. The Golden Horus name, your eternal divine aspect. 4. The Prenomen, your throne name, the one carved on obelisks. 5. The Nomen, the name your mother gave you. He speaks them aloud, slowly, carefully, as if reminding the gods who you are, as if reminding you, then silence. He bows and leaves. You lie there, eyes open, not ready to close them, because if you do, you might not open them again. Outside, a jackal howls. Anubis, perhaps, stretching his legs. You wonder what it will be like when the moment comes. Will it hurt? Will you notice? Or will you simply change rooms, leave this world through a side door marked eternity, escorted by gods who look just like your uncles? They say your heart will be weighed against the feather of Ma'at. They say if it's heavy, you'll be devoured by Amit, the soul eater with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the haunches of a hippo. They say if it's light, you'll sail forever in paradise, feasting on figs, beer, and the satisfaction of a well-lived life. But here's what you know. Your heart isn't light, not because you sinned, but because you ruled. And ruling is just a slow, sacred form of murder. You close your eyes, briefly. Sleep brushes your temples like a priest with cold fingers. But just as you begin to slip, a tap. Not loud, not hard, just there. A servant again. This one wears the mark of the Knight Chamberlain, a position only trusted to the most loyal. He kneels by your bed, eyes to the floor. "There is a dream," he whispers. "Ah, of course. The dream archive. You forgot. The scribes have recorded something unusual from one of the temple's dream watchers. They believe it concerns you." You sit up, slowly. Every joint in your body disagrees with this decision. He hands you the scroll. You read it. It says, "A boat sails upstream against the Nile's flow. Inside it, a man with no face speaks your name backward. The river runs dry. Then the stars blink out, one by one." You set the scroll down. You stare into the lamp flame. You say nothing. The servant leaves. And you wonder, was it a warning, a metaphor, or just a dream? You'll never know. And that's the point.
Because you are Pharaoh, not a man, not anymore. You are a title, a ritual, a living monument walking through sand and incense. And one day you will stop walking, but the ceremonies won't. They will preserve your liver, remove your brain through your nose, embalm your body in natron for 70 days, place amulets on your chest, carve spells into gold, and wrap you in linen so tightly that even your regrets can't escape. They will place you in your tomb, and that tomb will echo for centuries with footsteps and whispers and the occasional scream. You won't hear them. You'll be too busy reciting your names to Osiris, too busy defending your soul from crocodile-headed nightmares, too busy sailing the solar bark across an ocean of stars that only gods and pharaohs can see, because the daily routine of a pharaoh never ends.